Hello, and welcome to the Physical Therapy Owners Club podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Shields. And if you can see my background, I'm at the beach today. I'm not in my closet like I usually am. And today I thought I'd bring on a multiple time guest and my favorite partner, well, besides my wife, Will Humphreys. Will, good to see you, man.
Hey, it's great to be here. And I was getting worried until you said your wife. So thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, exactly.
Does she listen to the podcast? Does she
Yeah.
worry about that? Okay.
Yeah, she might get jealous. So I wanted to bring you on simply to have a conversation because coaching clients that I'm talking to, they're usually at some stage now, because we're dealing with this coronavirus, COVID-19.
That's right.
They have downtime. They're dealing with an issue that they've never had to come up against before, more than likely. And I can't speak from experience. As you know, you and I have never went through anything like this as owners, right? So I figured the best I could do, and I've tried to share information about COVID-19 and how to manage it, and whether that's financially with Eric Miller or my conversation with Andy Sabatier about breathing techniques for people who have respiratory issues when they're sick, stuff like that. But I figured from a coaching client standpoint or coaching standpoint, I usually come up against things that people don't have time for, that they say, well, and I know they're busy. We're all busy, but now because of this virus, we have some extra time. And so maybe I thought I'd talk to you about what we can do with our time as owners during this pandemic.
Yeah.
So, first off, your thoughts. How do you look at this, and what would you want to say to PT owners?
Yeah. Thank you. This is just unprecedented. We don't have a way of like having a plan to respond to this. However, trials and difficulties we've all gone through.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, as people are in this place where they've been used to growing their businesses with typical struggles, things that were hard for sure and overwhelming at times, but still they were moving with the current. But now, due to no fault of anyone's decision making, now they're swimming against the current. And even though they're doing good things and they're making progression to do the best with what they have, it feels like defeat.
Yeah.
Stats are going down. And as we all know, production is the basis of morale. So if we're not producing, meaning impacting patients' lives, it's hard not to feel defeated. And I just want to, from someone who's really aware of the many PT owners out there who are struggling, I just want to reiterate that they are doing a great job, that you guys are all doing the best you can, and it's making an impact. For those of you who are deciding to close your doors because you don't want to spread it, that is a valid decision. For those of you who are keeping your doors open to fight, to serve people and show that you love them, that's a valid choice as well.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what you choose right now, you're doing something from a place of love and concern. And I know that the impact is making a difference in not just your life, but the people that you're serving. So I think the thing that I want to say, first of all, is just to acknowledge everyone's efforts and let them know that what they're doing is making a positive impact, even though I know it doesn't feel like that right now.
It's got to, it's so tough, because it is something that you want to reiterate. All of this, whatever stage you're in, it's not your fault. And you still have some decisions and power, and you don't want to lose that. And you want to make sure that you have power to make decisions, that you aren't powerless, and that you have the ability to affect so many people's lives, whether you're shut down, slowed down, whatever that might be. The important thing to do is to remember your purpose. And you've alluded to that. Your purpose is to serve the community in one way or another as a PT clinic. And also go back to your values and act according to your values. So stay in line with your purpose, live according to your values, make decisions that are quick and efficient according to your values, and move forward. So if you are going to close, you know, you're going to have some time on your hands, and it's time to evaluate things and make decisions. If you're going to stay open, well, you're going to be busy as well, trying to navigate schedules and whatnot, and what's the next update from the CDC. But still, follow your purpose, your values, and make quick decisions. So it's important. Probably the most important thing is to just stay viable. Whether your doors are closed or you stay open, stay viable, because this is temporary.
Yeah, I love that. And it's, you talked brilliantly about like mindset,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was something that you were talking to me before this call, how like one of the first things that you see as important is the mindset. And I don't think mindset is like, hey, I'm getting crapped on and I'm going to call it something other than that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's the way I've dealt with some of the stressful situations in my life before, learning to get through those through the help of others, is that we have to remember the importance of staying present. All of our minds are going to the future right now. You know, we all have people in our lives who are higher risk. We're
Mm-hmm.
worried about them. We're worried about like the impact of the decisions we're making, whether we close or stay open or whatever. We're all in that state of worrying about the what ifs. And what that creates, the what ifs create a bunch of shoulds. Maybe I should be doing this. I should be better at that. And when we get should on all over ourselves,
I like
we,
it.
we are unable to stay present. We are truly, the only thing that's happening right now, if you're listening to this, is this. Tomorrow is nothing. And there's nothing wrong with like looking at that and having those moments of like realization, like, oh, wow, this is a scary thing. But instead of trying to pretend like it's not there or call it something different, put our arm around it and say, hey, man, everyone's stressed out right now. We're going to get through this together, and just love yourself. Give yourself permission to not be perfect. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
hope you really hear that. It's okay that you don't know exactly what to do. And you are in this position for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing right now is something that is going to impact so many people. And it's not by accident that you're a leader. You're needed more now than ever. And the only thing we can do when we finally realize where we are in the present is create.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like once I
Yeah.
accept, yeah, I'm scared of all these different things and I should be doing all these things. Great. Well, that sucks. I'm just going to sit with that until it goes away. And when that feeling passes, let's get to work.
Yeah.
There's opportunity in this. And I'm not trying to
Oh
sound
yeah.
overly rosy on this, but
Not at all.
the thing that you want to talk about today, there's a lot of successful actions. There could be gifts in this, but we have to be present to what we're feeling and realize our power to create imperfectly,
Yeah.
nonetheless.
Yeah, we don't have all the answers. And I'm not coming at it from a perspective like, I've been through this before, here's what you need to do. And anyone who promotes that, I think you got to take with a big grain of salt. But what we can do is look at go back to some of the basics and recognize, like you said, this is opportunity comes out of situations like this, right? And Eric Miller put it nicely, and I'm just going to try to summarize it, but essentially nothing major ever happened out of times when it was super rosy and everything was great. It's
Yeah.
usually during problems like this that real leaders step up and difference is made, right? And so
Yeah.
it's through the challenges that we really grow. And so as we're talking about the 5 things that owners could or should do while they're closed down or slowed down significantly, right? They're going to
Right.
go through a lot of stuff. They're going to send in all the applications for the loans. They're not going to find out for a couple of weeks if they get that money or not. You're going to have time, right? And it's time to spend with family, to reconnect, revisit your hobbies. But there's some things that as a leader, you have more responsibility, right?
Mm.
And that is to keep your business viable. And so I want to talk about those 5 things that owners can do while they are slowed down or closed down. And the first thing that you brought up was to deal with the present. Okay. That is, recognize where you're at. Let's get as much certainty around us as possible. What is my new break-even point? What do I need to do to stay afloat? What's in my bank account? What's in my accounts receivable? And what do I have available to me in case of emergency in terms of line of credit, SBA loans, grants, you name it, Relief Act, all that kind of stuff. Gather some certainty around you so that you know where you presently exist, and get some certainty, because the last thing you need to do is make decisions out of uncertainty, right?
Totally.
And so a lot of that has to do with dealing with the present, where you are now, and stay connected. Network as much as you can possibly, especially with your peers in the profession, APTA, PPS, peer-to-peer program, your mastermind, your coaches, your consultants. Stay in touch, do the webinars. They might be a lot of white noise right now, but stay connected. Last thing you need to do is isolate in a time like this and think that I'm in this alone, because you're not. There's a lot of information out there. There are plenty and plenty of resources. And so that's a little bit of my take on being present. But when you say, "Will be present," give us a little bit more detail about what you're thinking when you say that.
Yeah, you really started into that just beautifully about, creating certainty and understanding what your existing reality is, because it's
Yes.
shifted, and if we resist it, we're not going to be able to see opportunities there. So like you said, just what I meant by that is that once emotionally we really give ourselves space to just let those normal human feelings go through us, and we don't attach ourselves to them, and we don't resist them, they just kind of happen.
Yeah.
Once we get to that sense that we can create and be leaders, the first thing we need to do is lead ourselves, right? So being present looks like looking at myself as an individual and really take an honest assessment of what I could be doing to lead me as a human being first, meaning mind, body, spirit. We all go through the whole diet exercise thing. This isn't that. And if you hear it wrong, it's going to sound like that. What I'm talking about is, are you exercising to hack into your body's own system, to access the most optimal way of being physically? Are you, if you're spiritual, are you reading scriptures and praying if that's what you believe in? Are you reading? Are you journaling? All of these things show independent leadership and help sharpen the axe. That story of Abraham Lincoln, of if he wanted to go cut, if he had 2 hours to cut down 5 trees, he'd spend the first hour sharpening the axe, something along those lines, because he understands that that's where you focus, and it doesn't feel like that's where you should be.
Yeah. It feels like you should be hammering the trees.
Yeah.
Right?
As quickly as you can. Oh my gosh, our accounts receivables going down. Hammer, hammer, hammer. Slow down. Planes going through turbulence. They don't speed up. They slow down. They take a breath. They honor the environment, and that minimizes the impact, and they still get where they're going, and with a lot less fear. So leadership looks like, first, leadership of self. Second, leadership of family. How's your family doing? You can't go find hacks within your company if you have someone who's at risk and isn't getting what they need. Is everyone emotionally okay? That's what leadership looks like. I've taken care of myself. Now I'm looking at my family. That's why we do what we do ultimately. And then we can look at our business. And it's not like I've done myself. I've checked off my families, and now I'm working on my business. We do it on a daily basis. It's routine. It's doing, and realizing that routine isn't perfect either.
Yeah.
We do what we can a little bit more intentionally every day. When we're fighting in the ring against an enemy, it's one step at a time, one punch at a time, one round at a time.
That's right.
And that's how we stay present. And we let those fears come about the future.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot we could talk about in terms of how we could look at our business from the present, in terms of assessing the existing accounts receivable. As you know, there's tons of opportunity for people who've always been comfortable but not confident that they're collecting every dollar they should, to be able to dive in there at this moment in particular and capture everything that they can, because they have time to focus on it as they should. But right now, when you talk about what I meant about being present, it's got to be about being a leader, first to yourself, then to the family, then to your company, then the industry. And once we're in motion, once the car is in motion, the picture will appear.
Yeah.
Solution will come if we just stay consistent with manageable efforts. That's it.
And that leads to the second point, and it's kind of, you kind of alluded to it, but what I was, and I don't know if I even gave it the right title, but was to consider managing your time better. Making time, and what I mean by that is make time for the important things, yourself. And like you said, whether it's journaling, scriptures, prayer, meditation, use that to your advantage. Just focus on yourself, focus on your family. I always like to refer back to Gary Keller's book, The One Thing. Consider what's the one thing that you can do right now in the very present, such that by doing it makes everything else easier or unnecessary, right? So consider the options that you have before you on a day-to-day basis, even on a hour-to-hour basis or half-day to half-day basis. What's the one thing that I can do within this next hour, such that by doing it, everything else becomes easier and unnecessary? And that could be an action. It could be a decision that you make. And when I say action, it could be a simple email. It could be a phone call. It could be filling out the loan application. It could be talking to your CPA about that new break-even point, or meeting with him to see how you can pare down expenses. I mean, what's the most important thing? It could be giving your wife a hug because that's her love language, right?
Yeah.
And spending a little bit more time with your family or whatnot. So it could be, but focusing your time in the present that you have on the most important things. And I like how you said it starts with you, the individual, and then it spreads out to how you affect your family and those immediately around you, and then your business and the community. And none of those others are going to be affected positively unless you are in a good place, right?
I love that.
So I like the one thing. It's a good read. I mean, that goes kind of to my third thing, which is get a good mindset going. And I always like to refer to Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. The first 4 chapters, there's a reason Think and Grow Rich has been around for over a century and one of the more popular self-help books around. The first 4 the first 4 chapters really help you with the mindset. I like Traction by Gino Wickman. It helps with business structure. I like Vern Harnish's Mastering the Rockefeller Habits and Scaling Up. Will and I used all of these in growing our business to where it was. And so I looking at some of those things to lay the foundation. Reread them if you have before, or really actually start implementing what they're teaching. Could be good things to do during this period of time to again establish the foundation, get the right mindset. Anything that you would recommend in that vein?
Yeah, I love those. It's fun hearing you talk, because it's just like, Nathan quickly rattles off these books and these like groups that we've been through, but he's summarizing years, countless hours of in the trenches building the business that we ultimately we felt like we were able to master. And like, yeah, I think, the other book that I think of is Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl.
Oh yeah.
It's an incredible book that helps create more of a mindset of just like why. The why right now is hard to identify with all this chaos, and from a microscopic to a global perspective, like why are we going through this and why? Ultimately, having the right, like you mentioned at the beginning, purpose and clarity within. And by the way, I think spending time talking to someone to help you get to that clarity is how you get clear. Finding purpose is a group effort. I know you would be, as a coach, would be more than happy to meet with anyone just to talk about their purpose. I as well am happy to offer my time to talk to people, because clearly understanding why you personally exist on this earth helps motivate. And there's a movie actually I saw last weekend that I would like to recommend in terms of mindset. I watched Unbroken. Have you seen that?
Unbroken.
So
I don't think so.
It's the true story of this man who ran in the Olympics during, like, right before World War II. He was actually in Germany and saw Hitler. His story is unbelievable. And right now, like, this is the type of story that if you watch this, it will inspire you, because it's the true story of this wonderful human being who ended up getting shot down in World War II. And he stayed on the ocean for
and then the Japanese concentration camp.
Yeah, he got shot at. They had to fight sharks. He had people die next to him. He had this one. Yeah, I mean, I won't want to tell the story, but like when I watched that story, it made me emotional. But I get emotional over anything. But this particular thing was so inspiring to me, because that particular day I was in a funk, and I was trying to not be in a funk.
Okay.
And this just let me realize it's okay to be in a funk, and I'm just going to take it one step at a time. And I started producing. And what I've realized is, and we all know this, logically, but we have to emotionally experience it over and over again, is that it's not until we're in service of others and grateful for what we have that we can let the anxiety and depression go. Like there's people, once we're in motion of serving and helping others, we're fulfilling our purpose, because no matter how our individual purposes differ, we all share one common purpose of helping others.
Yes.
So by virtue of being in that service of whoever, I loved your analogy of just hugging your wife, but from a place of like, I'm doing this because I know she will appreciate it.
Yes.
Right. Or spending a time with your son, or having that hard conversation with that employee that you're furloughing because you can't afford to keep them on, and you just let them know that you care. What if it's a matter of calling patients? If I can highlight Vicki Buchanan, who would be okay with me sharing this, in Oklahoma, Vicki has this incredible company where her attitude is so inspiring. She has this thing going where she's got her team calling patients just to let them know that they're concerned about them and ask if they can serve them. And I know she's not alone in that effort, but when you hear Vicki talk, there's no fear. This is a woman dedicated to making an impact. And I just think, man, that's how it's kind of like the gift of our situation is that there's no gray anymore. Yeah. We're either being affected by what's happening or we're tackling it head on. Yeah. We can't fall asleep in the middle.
That's right.
And go to routine and just live life as if it has no greater meaning. The meaning is immediately present to us.
I totally believe that when Vicki makes those calls, that if someone said, you know what, I'm out of toilet paper, that she's going to get off the phone and find some toilet paper for that person and get to their house. Right.
Well, I have to highlight you. Because she was telling me that one of the things, and I know she'd feel comfortable with me sharing all this, but she was telling me that one of the things that she's been doing is, you've given some advice in one of your previous podcasts about just doing something for doctors, like showing them that you care.
Yeah.
And she started giving hand sanitizer. She had excess hand sanitizer, and she would drop them off at these doctors who are seeing these sick patients with COVID-19.
That's right.
And we all know what that means. How funny is it that a year ago, if she had dropped off hand sanitizer, how that would have been experienced?
Yeah.
But now it's like she dropped off a bar of gold that meant that was made out of like my love and appreciation for your office. Like,
wow.
And so like her listening to your podcast inspired her to do a little bit more. Her effort with her patients inspired me to do a little bit more. And now I'm on the podcast.
Oh, cool.
Inspiration, motivation. We need each other as a family.
Definitely. That's cool. Yeah. And it's interesting. I like what you said about how these things change us, because if we go through an experience like this and we don't come out the other side as different leaders, fathers, husbands, but especially we're talking about business leaders, if we don't come out the other side as a different company, especially as we have this opportunity to push the reset button, right? Yeah. The pause is more than likely where we're at right now. But if you look at it, instead of pause, push reset instead and create the business that you want to fulfill your purpose.
Yeah.
Right. Because all the complaints that you had about the business before this happened, you have an opportunity to correct them all.
Yes.
Write down your biggest headaches and figure out how you can correct it. And that's another step. Number 4 is like, prepare for your restart. Because you're going to start up again. Like, who do you want to bring back? Pick out the people that are truly aligned with you and that agree with your purpose and values and act accordingly, and hire judiciously, if that's the right word, or bring them back on judiciously. Take an opportunity, man. If things were kind of scattered and you were the solution man, hey, you've got a lot of time to write down policy and procedures, man. And this is how we do things at XYZ Physical Therapy from now on.
Yeah.
Maximize production as you go forward. If you weren't tracking statistics beforehand, figure out how to track them now and move forward, and consider things have flipped. Eric Miller really pointed it out in our interview just a few days ago. It used to be an employee's playground. Now it's an employer's playground in terms of hiring and recruiting.
Yeah.
When people couldn't find a PT or a good front desk person to work for them just a month ago, well, now there's a lot of people that are available. And if you can stay afloat and viable and are willing to take advantage of this opportunity, you can find some great people that are out there. So really taking this time to not just pause, but also push the reset and make it the business that you want.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly inspirational for leaders. You know, we've talked a lot about mindset for the first 2 to 3 steps. Now we're getting into the weeds of like what you can actually do with
Yeah.
this time that's traction. But you have to remember, mindset supersedes action. So
Yep.
all that first stuff, there are people who are so logical that I've coached in a world that like they don't really understand that, but it takes an experience of it to understand. But the
That's
world
true.
is so humble, they're really open. So like what's interesting, just as a side note, is I put out an ad on Monday
Uh-huh.
for, you know, as you know, I started a new medical billing insurance company, and I put an ad out just to see. And I, within 48 hours for a medical biller, I had 528 resumes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Indeed estimated that it would take 4 weeks for me to have 40 resumes. I had 528
Yeah.
resumes, and so many of them were rock stars from other companies.
Yeah.
So we don't, what we're not saying is that like, hey, the tide has finally shifted. It's about time. What we're saying is to do 2 things. If you don't mind, I had a couple of thoughts of a
Please.
couple of actionable things that you can do.
Yeah.
The first thing is, as an owner, once you get done mitigating the majority of the real heavy shifting, you know, because people are in meetings with employees and they're making major structural changes. But like you said, there will be a point where there's time. When they take care of themselves and their family and they're feeling like a creator, the first thing to do is to take a personal work assessment, to write down every duty that you do. Like, that was a weird way of saying it, that everything that you function in. And then you want to highlight the ones that align for you. And you want to look at everything that doesn't. You, in this space, have an opportunity to see the truth that the more time you're spent in doing those things, the less your company will grow when it returns to normal. We can only be as great as we tolerate. What are you tolerating right now? Not just at work, but in life. When it comes to people, once you do an assessment, you realize, yep, when we get back, I'm committed to working myself out through outsourcing, training, or hiring. Of all these things, I'm going to focus on these other areas.
Yep.
The second thing is, you talked about like simplifying things. There's no greater stress for a PT owner than managing a team when it's not cohesive. So one of the things that we do, and I'm sure you've gone over in previous podcasts, is doing an ABCD assessment of all of your personnel. Remember, we don't talk about staff. Staff is an infection. You have team members.
Yep.
And your team members fall into one of 4 categories. They're either A players, B players, C players, or D players. A players align with your values and are highly productive. We know who these people are. They're rainmakers. We love to be around them. We're scared if they leave.
Yep.
B players are highly valued, well-aligned people who aren't producing, meaning they just aren't able to see as much patient care without being stressed out, or they're just unable to get through their day without getting a lot of help.
Yeah.
We want to train those people to become A players.
Yeah.
C players are the dangerous ones. They're the cancer. They are highly productive, but low value. We keep these people around because they can produce. They have a lot of patient visits. Their patients love them, but they're always undermining things subtly. And we all know who they are, right? The D players are the ones that we are very obvious that we have to do something about immediately. And with anyone, we coach people either up to A or out of the company. We coach them, we serve them, we help them grow. And this is the perfect time to ask yourself one key question after you do this ABCD assessment with all of your employees, including yourself. Because this was a shocker, right? There's been roles I've had where I've had to fire myself.
Yeah.
Is that, would I emphatically rehire each of these people? Would I hire them? Yeah, I think I'd hire them. They're okay. They've got some issues. No, would you emphatically rehire them? And this is going to sting for some people. For those of you in partnerships, would you emphatically repartner with your partner? Would you emphatically hire yourself for the job that you're doing?
Yeah.
And if you don't, and if any of those answers are like no, and you don't know what to do about it, that's why, Nathan, you have a coaching business. Like there's people out there in the world like Nathan who are able to support and help you get clear on that. But this is the best time to do it when you have options, which we typically aren't used to having. And what an opportunity to seed the very soil that will precipitate all future growth.
Yeah. Well, there's
Right?
such an opportunity to get ahead. I mean, this, like I said, this is it's a pause in the business. Most of the people that we're talking to have shut down or closed down or slowed down significantly. But it's an opportunity to see that next year could be 2021 could be dramatically different from 2019 if you make the effort to make it so, and in a better way, that a way that gives you more freedom, that's more aligned with your purpose, that gives you time to be the person and the leader that you want to be, and generally in turn that turns out to be profits as well.
Yeah.
And it's not all about the money, but goodness gracious, profits help out a lot.
Oh, my stance. So with my new company, that's the biggest thing that I'm focusing on, is that
Yeah,
profitability unlocks possibility.
that's totally true.
When we are profitable, and you can be profitable even in times like this, profitable can mean a lot of things, but really the bottom line is, do you have cash?
Yeah.
And we're seeing our cash dwindle. It's scary. There's a reason, because that's freedom. Ronald Reagan was quoted as saying that freedom is directly tied to profitability and property. He was basically explaining how money isn't why we do what we do, but it creates the space to be able to go create.
Yeah.
And our industry has a real issue with money. Like, people are trying to say all the time, I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it for the money. Well, my question is, what do you want the money for? If you want that money to go do good, then you better be in it for the money, because money is a tool that gets you to make a bigger impact.
That's right.
And so, yeah, like, profitability unlocks possibility. It wasn't until we got profitable that we had space to see what kind of impact we wanted to make in the industry.
Exactly.
And look at you now.
Yeah.
We've had a podcast now for how many years?
2.
Dude, like, in a space where there's very few people standing up, because frankly, they don't have the possibility or time to think about doing what you've created. It took profits to get you there. And we don't do that on the backs of our patients. We do that making a change in their lives.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I love
So
it.
profitability is everything, especially now.
Yeah. I hate it that it is tied to money, but money gives you so much. It gives you freedom. It gives you an ability to develop culture. It gives you the ability to expand and help someone else and pay for training to gain knowledge. And that's why we pay money for a tuition, so we can have an exchange of knowledge and wisdom and all those things. And if you do this, if you get through this situation properly and take advantage of it, you can be more profitable. Like 8 to 10% net profit margins is not okay anymore. I mean, entrepreneurs don't go into business to be at 8 to 10% profit margins and work 60 to 80 hours a week, full-time treating patients and running your business on the weekends, not being with your family, not having any hobbies. That's not life. And I think this has given us an opportunity to reset our priorities and our values and recognize that, okay, if I'm going to start up again, I'm going to be maximally productive. I'm going to be profitable. I'm going to be with people that I love and I'm aligned with, and I'm going to make a difference. And based on the purpose that I've established. And if you haven't established a personal and a business purpose and values aligned with it, then that's the first place you start. Then you work down the line like we talked about today. And it starts with mindset, developing the structure. How do we want to be as a company? That eventually ties into your routine, and that routine develops into a culture. There's so many things snowball off of purpose and values first, and eventually that leads into profits and freedom. And that's what we're looking for, right?
I love that flow, how you described it, because that was like, if people go back and listen to that, that is the process of which freedom is created. Freedom is the goal. Freedom, it's a lack of being weighed down. I love it when people build their businesses and they go back into treating because they choose to. Most people who have businesses at some point think they want it because they want to just focus on treating, but the way that they want it. But ultimately, be able to build it from that place, it takes profits. And I'm going to say something a little controversial on purpose, because I want to continue this mindset shift while we're open to it, is that I want physical therapists to start thinking that they should make as much money as they can ethically. I want people to start thinking like that, because I don't know. There are those few and far between who are completely in it for money, and it shows up like not being ethical, but they're not as common as I think we all perceive. Most people I experience, the vast majority, our profits are, the national average is 8%. The most recent report that came out
Oh,
shows that average physical therapy private practice makes 8% net margin. That is unbelievably low. And there are 18,000 private practices in our country currently. Our industry is a $38 billion industry. $16 billion of that are the private practice owners who have between 1 and 5 locations.
mm-hmm.
And the average profit margin is 8%. And there's so much you can do to improve that. We're so focused on like more new patients, hire and tolerate them if they fog a mirror. As maybe we'll improve that over time, but like top line growth is all that I can do. There's so many other things that can be done when you're profit focused. And when you get to that profitability stage, that's when you get to create podcasts. That's when, like in my family's case, we moved to Europe. I took my 4 boys in July and we moved to Europe before all this craziness. And we spent time talking to healthcare professionals in 17 countries. My sons got to experience life. It wasn't a vacation. It was really heavy at times. But we were homeschooling our kids. Like it was, about 800 square feet for all 6 of us.
Wow.
And, but like when we came home, the miracle of that experience changed the lives of those 4 boys forever. I've got 4 individuals who want to make an impact in the world now in a way that they never could have understood without that. And for me, I was able to get some clarity as to what my next steps are in life. So all of that is reinvesting in ourselves, and profitability is where that freedom's created.
And it all starts there. That's right. There's so much that, that you've shared today, that we've talked about today. And a lot of it simply goes back to laying the foundation. It's getting your mindset, deal with the present as you need to, and then start establishing the foundation for the future, purpose and values, organize your company and structure, get into a habit of managing your time and preparing for your restart up now, even down to the content of your marketing when the doors open again, getting agreements together with people that you're going to hire in the future once you start up, all that kind of stuff. I mean, start looking ahead and doing things for your eventual open up, so that you're not behind the curve 2 months from now when the doors do open and you're like, oh, okay, I need to start putting things together. No, put it together now so that you can start off running, right? And that's what I'm hoping people get from this, is look at it as an opportunity to not just pause, but also reset, and then look at the opportunities that you have going forward to create what you want to create. Make as much money as you want to make and do it the way that you want to do it. But you got to be certain about yourself first.
Yeah. I love it.
Cool, man. Well, hopefully people get some value out of this. We're going to share it and I'll put it out on YouTube, Facebook, and for the podcast episode for sure. But Will, thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it. Always love you. And
thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. And if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
So they can email me at will@whumphreys.com. So my last name is Humphreys, Humphrys. I can, in terms of this way of serving people, I'd be happy to talk to you about your personal purpose. I'd be more than happy to do an assessment of your team with you. I know these are all things that you do as well, Nathan. And I do have something I've created called this. When I was in Europe for those 6 months, I wrote a book called The Family Startup. It was applying these concepts that we've talked about into our home. And so I created, talking about leadership of self and family, I created this document called The Smarter Start. All it really is a daily tracking mechanism of your routines. I've got it divided into mind, body, spirit, and heart. And it's just the whole thing in a routine. It's about an hour to an hour and a half in the day, and it covers everything from meditation to texting your wife that you love her. These kinds of things are done. I've learned, I didn't like the compilation is unique, it's mine, but none of it is something I've created on a single basis. It's something that I've been using for the last year, but I really honed it in Europe. And I'd be happy to share that document with whoever would like that as a guide of like, where should I start in terms of taking leadership of myself?
Oh, okay.
Share that.
Can you share it with me, and I can also share it along with share links on the post and whatnot?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to.
Cool.
I'll have to delete my information because you'll see how consistent and inconsistent I can be on this.
Well, it's good to know that you're fallible, and
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and don't be reserved. You're doing some medical billing right now, and you
Yes.
started doing some medical billing. How much do you want to share about that?
Yeah, I'm really excited. You know, when I came back, I am still associated with Empower Physical Therapy. They're an incredible group, and I've been able to create some space to start this company that focuses on medical billing and insurance. And it's something that is probably the least attractive part of our job. I mean, the way I tell people is like, there's nothing sexy about medical billing if you're
Mhm.
doing that. But for me, in our journey in particular, there were key people, coaches who helped me understand that no matter how much I know about patient care, it would never make up for what I don't understand about my billing and collecting practices.
Yeah,
My ultimate purpose is to create freedom for physical therapists.
totally.
There's different areas that you have to address, but man, finance is one of the quickest things you can do, and it's the scariest thing for us. We usually outsource it to a company that only goes for low-hanging fruit, or we in-house it and we do better, but then we have these monstrous headaches that sometimes can bankrupt us.
Hmm.
So I often work with clients who are comfortable but not confident that they're collecting every dollar they should, and they think that outsourcing is a bad solution. Those are the clients I'm attracting. And honestly, I'm just being direct. We're actually growing pretty well right now because
That's awesome.
right now we're able to help entrepreneurs find in their accounts receivable money that's just sitting there. When you have a good billing and collecting solution, whether it's in-house or outsourced, and it's not great, that difference, depending on your size, is at least tens of thousands of dollars. We've done 10
Hmm.
different profitability breakthrough audits with clients. We have found nothing less than tens of thousands of dollars that they can go
Exactly.
get right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you're not sure, call me free of cost. We can even do an assessment and see what we can show you
Yeah.
is obtainable.
Yeah. Especially if you're in that 8 to 10% net profit margin. Please call Will.
Please,
Please, please.
even if you
Like,
don't end up hiring me, like, let's get you some solutions. You've got to get up
yeah,
there. And I will say the other
please.
piece of that is leadership. I'm not just trying to duplicate this. I'm being direct. That there's the finance piece, but then there's the leadership training piece. That's where Nathan comes in. Nathan and I, we are great partners because we complement each other in the ways that we do. And we've kind of crossed over a little bit in what we focus on, because Nathan was always this financial guru in our business. But now, you know, he's an incredible person to meet with for leadership training. And having been with him, he coached me for almost an hour before this call.
Oh,
He coached me for almost an hour. I have to say that. And like I'm like uplifted and inspired to go to work. So I'm not just saying it because I'm on your podcast. You're
yeah.
not paying me anything. I can say what I want. You go to Nathan if you're not sure where to go. He's an incredible.
Thanks, man. Thanks, man. Yeah. And I guess I should share mine, Nathan at ptoclub.com. But I think the work that you're going to do is great because, yeah, 8 to 10% net profit margins is unacceptable. And we need to be more focused on our cash flow and our
Yeah.
money so that we can make greater influence and differences, not only in our lives, but those that we employ and in our community, et cetera, and the lives of our employees and team. So it's you're going to dramatically affect people's lives simply by the financial support that you provide. So I'm excited to see your growth going forward.
Yeah, thank you, Nathan, and thanks for the opportunity to be on this podcast. This was awesome just to be with you.
Wasn't it cool?
It was awesome.
Yeah, cool. We'll have to do more of it, man.
Anytime.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.